had fed her baby, and her older daughter came in and took the baby out, and she was shot in the head and died on her bed. Rita Riddle, who lived across the hall from me, told me when I was at the Brittany that she could feel the bullets going through her hair. And they were always yelling at me to get down, and the reason I was looking out the window is because I felt that anyone that had any sense would come into the place from the back. And that roof, they could get into any of the windows that were there, and some of the windows, one on the hallway, they could have stepped right into the second floor. So I kept looking out to make sure there was no one there. And they kept telling me to get down, but I guess I wasn't supposed to die, or I wasn't supposed to get shot, because I didn't. But after 45 minutes, the shooting stopped. And then they wanted to pick up their wounded. And so Wayne made arrangements so we would not fire on them when they picked their wounded up. And that's what they did. They picked their wounded up, and you can see that on some of the tapes that we have, where they took the wounded from where they were around the building and brought them up to where the trucks and things were.
Catherine, could I also ask, the papers seem to say, and the television, that there was a cache of guns, and that they were afraid for their lives, and that you all ambushed them. Can you tell us about the guns, and where were they, and how you tried to get to them, and they weren't much success?
We hardly could have ambushed them, because Paul had gone to the gun shows and taken most of the guns with him. We did have some guns in boxes that had been delivered to us, and when the firing started, there wasn't too many guns around, so they started to open these boxes trying to get the guns so they could use them. Apparently they had to get the bags, they had to get the ammunition, and apparently they weren't too successful, because when you look at the tapes, you do not see where they are firing on the ATF. I'm sorry, I thought of something else and now it's gone from me, but I'll think about it. But actually, you know, Winston had a piece of toast in his hand when he got shot.
And he died?
Yes.
And he died?
He died. And Perry was at the door with David. David opened the door and put his hands up and said, "We have women and children here. Don't come in. Don't fire. Don't fire." But that's when the barrage started, and Perry was there, and that's what killed him. David did get shot, and I do not understand exactly where he was when he did get wounded. But he was wounded on the side, and the nurses told me I've never seen anything like this before, because the bullet went in and went this way and that way and then back and then out. I said, I've never seen anything like that before. And he lost a great deal of blood, because when he made that 58-minute tape.
And that 58-minute tape is free.
Yes, we are giving out. You all have the seals. This was the first seal that he completed. This is the start of the book he would have written if they had allowed him to do what he was asking them, to let him write that book. He'd already made, he had already had it all planned that Dick DeGarren would make sure that the book would be published and anyone who wanted the book would be able to get it free.
Kathy, could you tell about your leaving the Branch Davidians and why you left, and actually why you would have preferred to stay if you hadn't been requested to leave, really?
Well, the morning, the 2nd of March, after he had completed that tape, he worked all night on it, I went to see him, and he was white, and I didn't really think he was going to live. When I looked at him, he was very, very weak. And he asked me if I would go out with this tape. And I said, I really don't want to go. And I don't want to go. And he said, now listen to her. He said, no, I want this tape to go to the world. And I want people to understand. And so I said, well, okay. Okay, so I ran upstairs and got some things packed. I didn't have my bags or anything, but I threw some clothes into the small bag I had, and the zipper bag, I put things in that. And I took 2 very small bags with me that had underwear and other things in the other one that I might need. And I went downstairs with it, and we put them at the door. They had already made arrangements so I could be picked up, and this other lady came with me, Margaret Lawson, and she was in her early 70s. And David had told me, now, they will not hurt you, and things will be all right. You just, don't be afraid, in other words. And the funny part was, I wasn't even thinking of that. So I waited to get in the car because we had to meet the ones who were going to pick us up at a certain point. Well, we finally got in the car, and when we did, there wasn't room enough for my clothes, all for Margaret's clothes. So we left them at the camp and said, please bring them out. The next one was coming out, because we realized that this is what was going to happen, that people were going to start to continue to come out, and when they did, they could bring things to us. I brought 2 children out with me. They were Wayne Martin's children and Sheila Martin. And one was Donald, and the little girl was Kimmy. And so the 4 of us got in the car, and the girl that was driving us brought us up to the point where we were going to be picked up. And we got into the vehicle. This is the first time I'd ever seen ATF. I didn't realize that they were police. And when we started to go out, I worked for Lois Roden. She had a magazine. And so being part of the media, I had seen media in many places. We went to a lot of these big conventions, big times when the media was always around. I had never seen so many people with cameras, but also I'd never seen so many men walking around with these ATF on them. They brought us out, and they brought us to TSTC, and they put us in a room. In fact, when we got out of the car, a man came up to the car. He was in rather a hurry, and he took everything I had in my hands, which were these 2 small bags, and I had some of my papers that I wanted to keep with me, my credit papers and other things. And he took them all, and I'm trying to hold on to them. He said, well, we'll give them back to you. It took months for me to get those back. I kept asking and asking, and I was out before I got my things back. Anyway, they put us in this room, and we didn't realize we were under surveillance. A man would come to the door, and we'd talk with him. And it was like they were just coming to see what we were like, and we talked to them. And then they'd leave, and then someone else would come and we'd talk with them. And it wasn't until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we had come out, they'd called me around 6 in the morning. It wasn't until 4 in the afternoon that I realized that they're holding me, and they don't want me to leave. they had these long tables, and on the tables was